We just went
Oh,
live.
we have gone live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Existence. Hope everybody's doing all right out there tonight. I've got a great guest tonight, great panel, great panel of guests tonight. It should be a very interesting show. Communication, Sasquatch communication. We often hear accounts, we hear encounters of people seeing Sasquatch, and we hear those accounts as well of people experiencing what we would say not the norm of things to happen, mind speak, cloaking. Maybe we'll call it the woo. Probably not the best word, but the other side of Sasquatch. And I brought some people from all over the place that don't actually know each other, but are experiencing the same thing in one shape or another, one form or another. So I just thought it'd be a good idea to get everybody together and see if we can compare notes, I guess, to use a term, or see who's experiencing what. And I don't know, maybe we'll learn a little bit, maybe we'll discover something, I don't know. But co-hosting with me tonight is down there at the bottom, but in the middle is Christopher Noel, of course, because if we're going to talk about mind speak and stuff like that, who better to have but Chris? And I've got with me, of course, the host, creator of the Pork and Bean Show, Pork Cunningham, up there in the right-hand corner to me, and down there, Franco Beans is amazing co-host. Bottom corner, Arizona Squatch, Kevin. Not seen you for a while, but he's back tonight. And of course, Kevin Saunders, who many of you might have saw his encounter over on BIGFOOT ODYSSEY, an amazing encounter where Sasquatch spoke to him. So I'm going to give everyone a chance to kind of tell us a little bit about their experiences. But first, hello everyone, and thanks for coming on tonight.
Happy to be here.
Okay,
thank you.
Don't all talk at once, honestly.
Beautiful to me, can't you see? I'm everything I ask for. I'm everything I need. I am so beautiful.
All right, Brad, I'm going to take a drink.
He does that every show. Every one of our shows. Well, he's the world's handsomest man. That's why.
Wow. I might use that as an intro every time.
By the way, I have a question. Christopher, by the way, are you the first Noel?
Actually, yeah. I was born the first in my family, and I was due on Christmas Day, and the Chicago Sun-Times came to do a story on the first Noel born on Christmas. But I was camera shy and came the day after, so that ruined it. Yeah, so.
Well, you've gotten over being camera shy, so you're good
a little bit. Yeah, that's why I do these shows.
You notice we've all got beards.
Yeah, we're all men, and we all got beards except for Daniela. No, not you. All the guests.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I've seen women with beards.
Yeah, I just cut mine down. Matter of fact, my hair is getting rather long, Daniela. You probably noticed. My granddaughter wants a Viking-themed birthday for her birthday in 2 years from now. So
I'm
growing it out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excellent. That's dedication for you, if nothing else. Yep. Right, let's get into this a little bit. I don't understand it. Obviously, it's not happening to me, but all you guys have experienced something in the form of communication with Sasquatch. I feel like they're all a little bit different as well, but of the same kind of thing. I want to start with Kevin Saunders, just to, you don't need to go into all of the encounter, but this experience you had, because I feel like the other guys have experienced this for much longer. I know Kevin has, and Pork and Beans, sorry about that. I've experienced this for more than, just one or two occasions. So for you, Kevin, I feel like it's fresh, a unique experience in that way to you, and not something you've continued to, or maybe not been aware that has been continuing. But if you wouldn't mind, start with what happened to you back in the 80s, I think it was.
Well, I used to hunt up in Apalachicola, and just the two of us went up there every year for bow season, and went up there from '84 to '89, and then '95 and '94. So 8 years total. And from '84 to '88, we kind of had some mild stuff like tree knocking, and well, we had some lights that wasn't so mild. It was kind of on the crazy side. But in '88, things started picking up a little bit as far as encounters. In '88, I was sleeping in the hammock and I saw one up close first time, and I almost think that was a test to see if I'd panic. And when I didn't panic, it just kind of continued, I think. And in '89, they decided to confront me and start face-to-face communication. So I actually had my first face-to-face in '89. I was sleeping on my hammock, and I woke up abruptly, didn't know why, and I hear this female voice saying, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid." And I'm looking around trying to find where this voice is coming from, and I see this being approach me, and she got within 10 feet, and we had a conversation for a little while, and we introduced ourselves, and then she ducked in behind a bush and told me as she was going behind the bush that she felt more comfortable being hidden. So I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. But we had a 10 to 15 minute conversation. And at that point, I could just see her legs sticking out of the palmetto bush. But it was quite a conversation, back and forth. And she had kind of an air of her, like a princess air, and but her English was perfect. The English that I heard was perfect. I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, no slang that I could think of, no accent or anything like that, just perfect English. And towards the end, I guess after 10 or 15 minutes of talking, she got up real quick and she walked away from me. And as she was walking away, she said, "I enjoyed our conversation. Maybe we can do it again someday." Because as she was walking away, I said, wait a minute, where are you going? I have more questions, because, it kind of left me like, what the heck's going on? So anyway, I kind of try to, explain it away and try to say to myself, that didn't just happen. That was too bizarre. But within a day or two, I am sleeping there in the hammock again, and I wake up fast again, which is unusual for me. And I hear her voice again, and I see her almost immediately in the clearing of the hunt camp that I'm in the hammock, in. And she says, "Kevin, I told my parents about you, and they wanted to meet you." So she says, "My father is out making sure the coast is clear before he comes out. But here's my mother." And the mother comes out, and she introduces her mother, and the mother starts talking to me about how rare it is to find a good man, and that I should be proud of being a good man. Actually, she went on for a couple minutes talking about how rare it is to find a good man, and that I should be proud. And then she looks over at her daughter, and the daughter agrees with her. And then the daughter says, "Okay, my father's coming now." And he must have been crawling because he came out and I didn't see him coming. But all of a sudden he was right there. I heard some bushes smash, and then like in seconds he was standing in front of me. Okay. So he starts talking, and of course, the whole time I'm in these conversations, their mouths aren't working, aren't moving. I'm the only one speaking out loud. Their mouths weren't moving, so that was, I didn't know what was going on. But anyway, when the father came out, I definitely heard a male voice. When I heard the mother speak, it was a female voice. So I don't know if they create this somehow. I don't know how they do it. This is the mystery and why we're here, I guess. But anyway, the father starts talking, and again, he compliments me on being a good man, and he actually talks for a couple minutes too about how rare it is. And I was almost embarrassed, so I decided right then and there to kind of compliment them on raising a very polite daughter. And after I got done talking, then they said their goodbyes, and then they slowly walked back into the woods and kind of just faded away behind the trees. And I sat there slapping myself and trying to determine whether I was sleeping or, I don't know, deranged, or I don't know.
You said you said at the time, did you feel a little bit in a trance?
I actually felt calmer than I normally would in a situation like that. So I do believe that they were influencing me somehow. Because I believe I would have panicked if they weren't.
Did you sort of freak out more in retrospect than you did at the time?
Yes. Yeah, and I convinced myself that it didn't happen afterwards. Even though I sat in the hammock after each encounter and kind of slapped myself, and I was like, that, I'm not dreaming. I'm not dreaming. This was real. Because my slaps are hurting. So I was like, this is too bizarre. And when I got back to the tent, my buddy was getting ready for the next hunt. The first time around, I told him it was a dream. And then the second time around, it was just too bizarre with the parents that I decided not to say anything to him. Because he was very superstitious. Didn't want to talk about anything like that. So that was the first and only time I ever had mind speak, but it was very clear. English was perfect. And they were very polite, actually, and very complimentary of me. If it were a negative conversation, I'm sure I would have went to my buddy and said, "Hey, we got to get out of here. We got to go. This is not good." But it wasn't.
I think that my hunch is that they're not speaking English so much as thought toward you.
I agree.
And your mind translates it into English, and you hear a male voice because you're seeing that it's a male, so you hear it that way. But I
agree.
Yeah.
I disagree. I have them on audio speaking perfect English. I have them on audio speaking whatever language it is they speak. With as old as we believe they are and as much as they observe us, I strongly believe that not only do they know English, but they know all the languages of the areas that they're in. They're extremely smart. They're a lot smarter than we are, and I've got physical evidence of it, of them speaking English. I got one that says, "I'm working Kevin." I got another one said my full name, Kevin Keeney. I've got one that almost sounds like he's saying Pennsylvania, but I don't know what that would mean. Why he would say Pennsylvania. I think it was something in his language with clicks and pops in it. But they absolutely have the ability to speak our language.
It may be that they can speak in short segments and know people's names, but in terms of sentences and paragraphs in perfect English, it may be more the thought thing, but we don't really know the answer, do we?
Well, yeah, we do. I've heard them speak English on multiple occasions, and not just myself, but others that have been out with me.
Long form English.
Yeah, full sentences.
Interesting.
Sasquatch Message for Humanity is basically 4 or 5 people got together and compared notes and wrote out a book. They actually wrote a book from people from the Sasquatch talking to them, and they're talking about the history of the Earth and the war with the bad guys and all kind of stuff on there. So they can do whatever they want. Mindspeak is a universal language.
Yeah, I think in telepathy between people, just like between Sasquatch and humans, I feel like it's a different category from speaking. I feel like it's thinking. And I mean, that's, people interpret it different ways. And in my research of interviewing many people like yourselves who have experienced this phenomenon, some people just see images, some people get whole sentences, some people get sort of the meaning but don't hear a voice, and some people hear the voice just like they're talking to somebody. So it takes different, it manifests itself a little differently for different people in different situations.
Yeah, I've gotten all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people out there don't know that I've been doing this for right at 4 years, and I've got over 8,000 hours boots on the ground out in the field. I run, the only technology I use is an audio recorder. I don't use cameras or video or anything like that. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. This is a personal experience that, journey that I'm on. But, the level of interactions that we have are just almost bar none. It's incredible. We've got the names of, I think right now we're at about 34 different individuals that we know the names of. Constant communication with them. It's beyond amazing.
Kevin, Arizona Kevin, we have 2 Kevins here. Can you kind of tap into that anytime you want? Like, could you talk to one right now?
I can, put my mind into neutral and try and communicate with them, but they do what they do and they do it.
Yeah.
Every interaction and everything that happens is entirely up to them. There's times to go out that I don't get any communication other than a hi, we're here. And other times it's like
they're chatterboxes.
It's overload. And when the best way I can describe it is when you hear about 500 of them talking to you at the same time, it's like, stop. And
cool it. Yeah.
Yeah. It gets too, sometimes it gets to be too much. And I have to tell them, guys, bring it down one at a time. And then they'll usually just cut me off.
So since we're doing sort of just a general overview, pork, why don't you go next, and then beans, about how it started for you and what it's like.
Boy, that's a long topic because it's so diverse.
Selective. Be selective, yes.
Well, I think that they have lifetime interests in us. I think that before they contact us, they've already known us for maybe over multiple lifetimes, or at least for a long, long time before they actually introduce themselves. Because I find that a lot of people who connect with them, first of all, they connect, if you have a true connection with them, it's through the heart. And like number 1 Kevin said, not Arizona guy, they connect with good people who don't have an agenda and are just people that they want to teach or whatever, because I have sort of like a student-teacher relationship with them. Mm-hmm. But how it started with me is I was walking along the dikes, a waterway, and off to my right was mountains, And all of a sudden I got mind speak in my head, go to the mountains. And let me just back up because I didn't make my point. Like I said, I was always fascinated in Sasquatch. I wasn't that interested in ghosts or UFOs or the Loch Ness Monster or anything, but I had a total fascination with Sasquatch. And I think there's a reason for that. That's why I say I think that they have connected with a lot of us before we even are consciously aware of it. So they said, go to the mountains. And then they just started connecting me with all kinds of people. Like, it's just connection after connection. And all the people that I connected with, I could either enhance or open their hearts and their minds, or they taught me something. It's just like they connect you with the right people. So the first guy I connected with, a guy called Randy Brisson. Anybody know the name? First Nations guy. And I was on Bigfoot Encounters, Bobby Short's old site. She's deceased now or passed on, but really, really great site. And so I was working graveyard, and I had all kinds of time at security, and I could use the internet all night. So I had all kinds of time to be looking at Sasquatch stuff and whatever. And I noticed this one guy on there, Randy Brisson, and I said, hey, wait a minute, this guy's from my area. And he was talking about his son and himself finding tracks. And I said, geez, I think I'm going to try to friend him on Facebook. So I did. And right from day one, we started having experiences. And then it just went on from there. I met people like Tom Cantrell, Arla Calais Collette, my wife. And it's just all about connections. Yeah.
So
and,
how does it? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Ask the question. Probably. Go ahead.
Help you select what material to cover.
Right, because it's so diverse. I don't know where to go. Right.
I know. I see your shows, and they last 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, I understand. I've watched some of you, and I really love your show and your approach. How does the mind speak feel inside your head? Is it like we were speaking like perfect English, like Kevin was saying?
Yeah, it can be, but the majority of the time it's sometimes it's just an energy and a knowing, right? It's just like I feel their energy, and I can tell the personalities of each one by their energy. But it's like not like I hear them, but I just get the knowing in my head. Or sometimes it's mind speak, but it's usually a thought that's not mine. Like, like one such instance was they told me, you represent us everywhere you go. And it was just like a knowing and a feeling and an energy. One of the things they do a lot is, and this is amazing. I'll be walking along and I'll say, geez, I wonder if it's like this. And as soon as I get the thought, the answer quite often is right at my feet, like instantaneously, and I've got numerous examples of that. Or sometimes it takes a few days, but yeah, it's kind of like that. And of course I get downloads and universal downloads and that kind of stuff.
What do you mean, of course, you get universal downloads? That's not an of course kind of thing for me.
Well, yeah. I get what he's saying.
Okay, well, okay. Well, okay, well, like, for instance, this was a life-changing experience for me. Like, I was walking along the path, and all of a sudden, it was just a knowing. I knew that my female who was my main connection at that time, ODYSSEY, she was in the bush, and I heard her moving. I'm getting that energy again. See, that's part of the connection. When I'm talking about them and they like it, I get this big super energy kind of thing. So I heard her rustling in the bush, and all of a sudden I got hit up with what I call the love zap. And it was like a download of information. Like I knew I was a eternal being. I knew we were all connected. This was a strong knowing. I knew, like no judgment, love. It was so powerful that I was weeping for like about a half an hour. I'm trying to think of what else. Just a big knowing of connection and that a universal being and that we're all one and all connected. And
that's very similar to how people describe sort of near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences, where they feel that they before they come back to their body, they have some kind of they manage to sort of enter a zone where everything is one, and they just feel overwhelming acceptance and love, and like they've come home again.
Yeah, and the big thing that I took away from it is that I knew this was a big knowing. Like, you know, like human beings are all about judgment. I mean, we're brought up to judge and whatever. We're always, you know, like, I don't like, you know, that's just our nature. I don't like this religion. I don't like the way you look. I don't like this. I don't like that. And it's all lower negative vibrational stuff. So when I got this love up, my vibration was extremely high. And I couldn't judge. I couldn't hate anything. Even my worst enemy, I had no judgment for, or whatever, or perceived worst enemy, you know, and I knew, and that's what I'm actually doing right now. That's the thing that they've got me really focusing on, is that I knew that, you know, people talk about a transition or a conscious shift or whatever in people. Well, to me, it's that's what it is getting on that high vibration of no judgment, love, because all the crazy things that are going on in the world today, they cannot exist in that vibration. And so I think that that's the answer. So they've really had me. Well, you've seen some of my stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I really focus on. I do believe that is how we get out of this quagmire or this mess that we're in, is we have to raise our consciousness.
Well, we have to get back. We have to get back to, like you said, the love. You know, until somebody experiences that level of love, that the way I say it is they broadcast it on you. But it's very powerful. And like Pork said, that, you know, there's been times I broke down and you know, in joyous crying.
Wow.
It's you know, and you know,
it's like people finding Jesus. They describe that too. Similar.
It's the same thing.
Well, I mean,
there's only one bliss.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, sometimes I'm going into my area and it is so strong, the greeting and the love, that I am literally like, like making the noise and everything. Like, you can't help it. It's just so powerful and loving. It's like nothing you've ever can describe.
I'd like to feel that. I'd love to feel that. I've never had the pleasure.
Well,
Frank,
here, still, I'll shoot some at you.
Okay.
Now you know.
Mr. Beans, your turn.
Hey, hello everybody. I love everybody. Just before when I began my nap today, I started breathing. Right, I started this automatic breathing, and that was the Sasquatch who gave me this meditation technique in 2015, I think. Sasquatch stuck his hand in my chest and took over my breathing and directed how to breathe into your heart, right? So and I've been doing, but before that I was initiated into Kriya Yoga from a living master of you know, meditation. And so this was like a second initiation into the knowledge of God, or in this case it was the knowledge of heart. Kriya Yoga is more up here, and heart light meditation is down here. But when this happens, when I connect to my heart, right, that is a connection to the Sasquatch. In other words, I am connected to the Sasquatch with every breath I take, if you can imagine that. But if you wanted to go back to the beginning, about mind speak is, you know, when I first got connected with Sasquatch, it was through a friend of mine named Thomas Hughes, and Thomas Hughes was American Indian. Some people might remember him back in the early days. He had a radio show and he talked a lot about Sasquatch, and this is before the Mike Patterson kind of guy took the lead. And so anyway, I called him up and and ask him some questions and stuff. And then he said, "Oh, just go outside and ask Sasquatch to be your friend, and be a friend." That's how I became friends with Sasquatch. That just because if you're friends with friends of Sasquatch, you know, like all these guys, all the two Kevins and Brian and Mike we are friends with. We have a personal friendship with Sasquatch. So if you know any of these guys, then your chances of being friends with Sasquatch go way up, because we vouch for, you know, like Brian was saying, we're ambassadors in a way, or we're examples of friends of Sasquatch. So anyway, the Sasquatch had me. They took me out of somewhere, I think maybe in Arizona, where there's big red rocks, and they had me. They took me out of my dream state and had me talk to this rock who called himself a rock god for 3 hours in my dreams at night, right? 3 hours of me sitting there, and I can see the whole vista, and I'm sitting there talking to this god rock, and this rock god talked to me about all life on the planet Earth from the perspective of the God force that is in rock and water, that water and rock make life, right? So, and it was mind blowing, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And I but it was like a 3 hour long talk about how every little piece of life that makes everything that becomes life inside of itself, inside of its cells, or inside of its whatever it is, it makes water and rock, you know, and that's where the sand on the beach comes from, and so on. So, and then it took me a while to realize that was the Sasquatch telling me, not only can we mind speak with you, but everything in creation can mind speak with you. Everything is available, from stars to trees to rivers to everything is possible to connect to. And as strange as it all may sound, this is exactly where a lot of the Indians used to be. They would talk to a frog, or they would talk to a flower, or they'd talk to the bull, you know, bison, and so that's how I got started on it. But you know, we talk about being interdimensional or beyond time. You go back when I met my first enlightened man. When I met my first fully enlightened man was in 1970. 2 or 3, I think, 1972 or 3, and I wanted to put this out there because it answers some questions. First of all, he was an enlightened guy, and I just met him in Coconut Grove, Florida, and we were just hanging out in sort of like the hippie, you know, little square there, and I was talking to him, and I did not know this guy was enlightened. I had no clue what enlightenment means. I hadn't, you know. And he was talking to me. I ended up spending from 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon to about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, almost 8 hours, something like that, that I spent with him. And he told a story about how he became enlightened, and this light came inside his head and you know, knocked him out, and then he woke up and the light never went away, and all this kind of, there was all this long story about this. When this was like one day, it was like on a Sunday. So Monday, I got up to go drive my car, and my whole entire transmission of my car was, the transmission of my car was blown out. I'm going, what? This is a brand new transmission. So I take it back to the transmission guy, and he said, okay, we'll have it fixed we'll fix it today. It was a good guy. And then I said, I got a class I got to go to, you know, in Miami-Dade Community College. You know, I'm going to college there, so I don't want to miss that. Okay. So he gives me a call late that Monday and says, "How you can come pick up your car?" And when I got there to go pick up my car, that the enlightened guy was sitting in, he said, "I've never seen anything like this." There's two miracles here, right? First one is the mechanic guy said, "I never seen anything like this. Every seal in the transmission was blown out, and it was brand new. It's impossible for that to happen." The second miracle was he didn't charge me anything because he had put the the transmission in. So that's two miracles that a transmission guy doesn't charge you for doing a transmission repair. Anyway, so I'm good to go. I'm still kind of like, I realized that this guy was enlightened. It was like looking at a giant 747 while you're driving around in a little Volkswagen Bug, right? Just because the presence that this guy had being fully enlightened. So I was driving my car, which worked perfectly, usually like about 5 miles out to the campus. And when I got about 3 miles into it, I started hearing people talking. I'm going, this is weird. So I stopped at a stop sign and rolled down my windows, rolled back up my windows, and I could still hear these people talking. Then I drove over the interstate bridge to the school was on the other side. So from 2 miles away, I heard people talking. I parked it in the parking lot, and I went around the side of the facility where the library was. The library was sort of facing inside this big, colonnade place. Look, as I go around the corner inside this building, where I could see the whole front of the library was glass, and it had classrooms on both sides of it, so it's kind of like inside of it. So when I looked in there, the people talking in my head were very loud and very clear, and there was like 5 or 6 of them in there. I actually could separate their voices. Then so I'm turning around and I'm looking into the library, and there was people reading. They had their book and they were reading, right? They were projecting in very clear sentences from reading their book in their head, and that's what I was hearing.
How could you tell it was them? Because
I was watching them. I was watching with the book, and I could pick out. Not only that, it was when you read, and there's a place where you read in the library. You don't read back in the books. There's little tables and stuff. They were there, right? It's a big library, and I could just pick out every single voice from looking at them, and there was a connection there. I was connected to them. They're connected to me, except they're reading their book. That's why it all sounds jumbled up. Everybody's reading a different book. Okay. And now that kind of blew my mind. But just to put it on a note, this is meeting an enlightened guy one afternoon, and then being able to hear the conversations in people's head from 2 miles away before I got to school. Okay. And the second thing, and this is really important in this kind of the Sasquatch saga. This is from meeting a very enlightened man and just soaking up his energy, right? Then the next day, so at lunchtime after my class, I went to go sit with some friends and talk to some friends. And I said, hey, I got this thing and I'm listening to, to meet this enlightened guy. I was all excited about it. This is like something new for me. And I like, and I could hear people talk from 2 miles away. And as I'm walking up to my friend was going, wow, that's really cool, So as I got closer to him, this is important. As I got closer to him, I saw, when I got within his biofield, in other words, within 10 feet or 5 feet or something of him, I saw his whole life review, his whole life, from the time he was born all the way until he died. And here this guy, he's probably maybe 18 or 20 years old. So from the time he was born all the way until the time he died, it was like a slideshow of events. It showed him when he was in college and who's he going to marry and who's his kids going to be, and and this event and a job and all this kind of stuff, and buying a house and all this kind of stuff. The whole life review is there. This is from me spending one afternoon with an enlightened guy. I could hear people speak from 2 miles away, and when I got close to people who are friends of mine, who I was connected with, I could see their whole life. Okay. And these two things are things that Sasquatch do all the time. They can hear you speak from many more than 2 miles away. Once they're connected to you, that's it. You could be on the other side of the planet. And the other thing is, if you ever hear the stories of Sasquatch going around people's houses or Sasquatch going around people's tents, there's no question in my mind that they know exactly who you are. Like when Kevin was talking about how they knew who he was, and they said, "Oh, he's a good man." And the reason why they could, and the three, the daughter, the mother, and the father were saying, "Oh, he's a good man. It's a rare to find a good man," because they looked at his life from birth till death. They knew everything about it. They knew every event. They knew what was in his heart. This is who the Sasquatch people are. I can also tell you another story.
Well, let's just spread it around a little bit more.
Can I just make a point on that? You said a very important thing, Mr. Beans, because I know for a fact, because I've proven it to myself, that the Sasquatch know, like they know. I mean, if I come across something and understanding, like related to them, they know 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, an indeterminate amount of time before that I'm going to come to that understanding. And I've proven that with glyphs and what they've shown me in that sense. So what Mr. Beans is saying is absolutely true. They know your heart. They know what you're going to be doing. They know stuff in the past about you, and they even know that. Yeah, and when you come across something, a new opening or a new mind opening, whatever, they already know that you're going to have that. So I love that, Mr. Beans, because that's my experience too.
The reason why they got that this is important is because before I ever knew Sasquatch, I had all these spiritual enlightened experiences, and I've known these enlightened men, and I've been a devotee of enlightenment. Before that, before I ever met Sasquatch, they gave me they pointed out or enhanced or shown me that is the fundamental nature of reality. And that was back in 1970, 2 or 3, whatever it was, right? And to me at the time, and even now, that doesn't really make any sense. But now it makes all the sense in the world, because you have a whole tribe, a whole nation of people who can do this,
Mr. Beans, you mentioned Thomas Hughes, and he enters into my story too. Although I've never experienced mind speak myself, and I'm very envious of all the rest of you who have.
You just don't recognize it.
It may be, that may be.
You wouldn't be Christopher Noel with a book under his pocket with no mind speak. What it is being poked and focused, and you're in there, and so is Daniela, and everybody who's like hardcore right in there. They're not alone.
Yeah.
Well, that's
my story. I agree with that. I agree with that, because when I'm writing my books or whatever, they're along there writing and guiding me. So and I'm getting the energy again. So I think this is what Mr. Beans is saying. They are probably guiding you in some way to do what you're doing, but you may not be consciously aware of it.
Well, thank you for that. I'll keep that in mind. It could
absolutely connected. There's no question.
I don't think it could be. I don't think it could be. I think it's a fact.
How do you feel about that, Kevin? Are you connecting to any of this, even though you had that experience back then? You feel there's been anything in your life that's been guided by something, maybe?
Well, I did have that unusual experience while talking to somebody that Chris recommended I talk to. Her name is Robin, and we spoke for over 2 hours, and she asked me about my experiences, and right after I told her about meeting that family, she says, well, hang on a minute, I'm channeling with a young female right now, and she described the female, and I didn't even go into her description, but she described this female that I met, the first one, the young one, to the T while we were on the phone. So she was actually channeling with this female Sasquatch that I first met and actually became friends with. And she told her, this is the Sasquatch, she said, he's my friend and I will never leave him. That's what she said.
That's
Yeah.
Robin Haynes McCrae. She's on Facebook, and she runs the what's it called, the International Society of Sasquatch Communication, or
Yeah,
something
for
like.
Igor Birchstev.
Yeah,
So,
Igor, right?
right.
Igor, yeah.
Right.
So she's one of the queens of this. I have a long interview with her in my book Mind Speak, and she's really a genius in this realm of
Yeah.
of being knowing how to be with them on this level that you're all talking about.
She's amazing. She's
Yeah,
amazing.
she really is.
And she
she's
just
psychic, psychic with people too, not just with Sasquatch.
What else did
Yeah.
she say? What else did she? You said she described her better than you could.
yes, I had to stop her actually and say, now you haven't watched Bigfoot Odyssey or anything. You don't know me. And she says, no, I never heard of you before, and I don't actually watch shows. She said, because she doesn't really have time. She said, to watch anything like that. So she had no idea who I was. She had never heard my stories or my encounters, and yet she's describing this female better than I could describe her. I mean, it was amazing. She actually included details that I didn't include when I had my interview with you guys on Bigfoot Odyssey. She was describing her better than I did.
Mm.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So how can that happen unless she's actually channeling with her? I mean, to me, it was like 100% proof for me.
Well, telepathy and all this sort of thing that allows for this communication to take place is not a supernatural phenomenon. It's natural, and some people are more innately. It can be developed, but I think some people are more innately gifted at it, and the Sasquatch people are just a whole lot more proficient psychically than we are, and those lucky few. You might say more than I would say, but I think it's a lucky few people out of every 100 people or so are able to tap into that very, very sort of readily, and it's kind of like mother's milk to them. They just take to it right away, and others need to develop it. And I've been trying to develop it over the years, and I think my head is made of stone. It doesn't seem to penetrate my thick skull, and you might say that unconsciously I'm doing it, and that may be the case. But I wanted to tell a little bit about my friend in East Texas, where I spent some time. She was a habituator or an experiencer, as you might say, and she talked to Thomas Hughes about her local Sasquatch group. She felt like she was under siege in her little house there, and she talked to Thomas Hughes. She got connected to him through some chat room, and he said, just the local female that you want to connect with is named Nantaya. Just say her name. And so my friend, after getting off the phone, she tried it. She said Nantaya, and she heard this very annoyed "what" in her head, like "what," and it freaked her out. It knocked her off her feet. And from then on, she was able to be in constant touch. Pretty much constant touch with this female Sasquatch, who is actually the one who appears in, I don't know if you've seen it, my Woodpile Sasquatch thermal video. That is Nantaya. So I could sit with my friend in Texas and ask her a question, and she would ask Nantaya and then get back to me with the answer. And it was just fascinating, just like you say, Kevin, about talking to that girl, and he just wanted to go on forever. And I took tons of notes, and some of them I have in my book that I sent you, Kevin. And so people can read my whole experience with her through that. But a lot of things happened to erode my skepticism, let's say, about telepathy with Sasquatch, and finally I just had to accept that it was true. Things were just too on target, and the last thing was I was sitting with my friend outside the morning I was going back to Vermont, and I was about to leave for the airport, And I said, can you ask Nantaya to make a goodbye noise for me? And we were sitting there, and we had sat there all week, all day long, every day, because it was a heat wave. So we sat outside so as not to run the expensive air conditioning. And we hadn't heard a peep from the woods. At night we would hear stuff, but in the daytime, no. And so I said, could you ask her to make a goodbye sound? And within 10 seconds, we hear, bam, a tree knock from the woods, maybe 50, 100 feet in, but it was thick and you couldn't see anything. And at that moment, all the other things that I could tell you about were pretty convincing, but that was the final straw that took away my skepticism. So there's my little piece. I could go on, but since I haven't experienced it myself, I probably am not the most valuable member of this panel. So
that's not true, man. You've experienced it. You're experiencing it now. What something got you out of bed and got you to this program? What was that?
Well, I'm fascinated by the subject, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm.
But why are you fascinated? Who's fascinating you?
Well,
you see what I'm saying? We when you talk about the all one, you literally have to understand what the all one is. I and my brother are one. I and my friend, father are one. That's one. So if they want you there, you're there. I mean, I laugh at all these guys like Sasquatch Chronicle guy and who's that guy Steve who does the how to hunt. Yeah. Those guys got Sasquatch all over them, and they don't recognize it. But they have this whole program that they're doing, and it's mind blowing. But they got fingerprints of Sasquatch all over them. Everybody does. Once you see it from our side, looking back in, you can see, man, they got their hand in there. And it doesn't take much to change. It doesn't take much to change somebody's perspective. Like Brian was talking about the love zap, right? And Kevin from Arizona talking about how he's felt this stuff in his heart. If they can do that to you, buddy, they can like say, look at this. This is important. This is exciting. And you go, yeah, it's exciting. You know what I mean? You don't even know. We don't even know them from not them. Well, I've never seen a Sasquatch, and I do not care if I ever see a Sasquatch, because it took them 2 years to explain to me without words what the all one and no space was. And basically what it is they live in no space, and they like to teach and connect in no space, which is where your primary connection and Daniela's primary connection is, and my primary connection is in no space. That does not mean that they're not there. They're there, and that's where they like to teach. They teach all American Indians. They teach a lot of people in no space. In other words, when an American Indian goes on a vision quest or something, well, they're going to get connected to the Sasquatch people, and the Sasquatch is going to hook them up to some animal or some important information or something. You know what I mean? That's the way it works, and this has been going on for a long time.
What happens to the mass of people that are not having great experiences with it? Well, there's another side to this, that not everybody's experiencing that, and some might say, are you actually experiencing Sasquatch, or are they experiencing something else? Is it the same thing?
Well, I want to step back just a little bit to what they were saying. The one thing that I was told by them is that they speak to everybody, but not everybody hears.
Right. Okay. And there's different ways that they can communicate with you too. Like when I had the Love Zap, that was a big download of information. Another time, so it's not necessarily in words. It's just like, you got a whole encyclopedia of knowing instantly. Another time I was walking along the forest path and I literally felt energy streaming in to the top of my head, like dramatic. I mean, it was tingling and tickling, and it was like a big encyclopedia of knowledge. So it's not always just in simple, well, not simple, but there's different delivery systems is what I'm saying, It could be mind speak, it could be thought placement, it could be downloads. There's so many different ways, and I guess they they choose how they want to connect with the person, the best way that they can connect with that individual, I guess.
Kevin from Arizona, how is all this striking you?
I'm pretty much on point with all of it. You know, there's a few differences, you know, just in the paradigm thought, but you know, I have to agree with them on 99.9% of everything that they're saying.
That's a high percentage.
Yeah, it is. But you know, the way they communicate, and I'll give you a really good example of ways that they communicate that I don't think I've ever heard anybody else touch on. You know, being from the desert, and one of the greatest trackways I found was out in the desert. You know, so from the very beginning, I would ask them, you know, how do you guys contend with the different temperatures? You know, some are in the desert, some are in forest, some are in swamp, some are top of mountains. You know, how are you, you know, what is the effect of the different climates on you guys? And I would ask this question over and over and over, and I think they got tired of me asking the question, so they showed me. We're sitting out at a place that we call Crazy Town, and it got its name for a reason. But it was 30, 32 degrees outside. It was cold, especially, you know, for, you know, someone that was from the desert. And you know, we're all bundled up in Arctic gear, and I got a face mask on, got hand warmers in my pocket, and all of a sudden I couldn't feel the hand warmers, I couldn't feel the cold. It's like it just went from the top of my head down. I went temperature neutral. It's like there was no temperature. And so I'm explaining to the guys that are with me what's going on. And so my buddy Chuck, he says, well, hey, can you guys do that to me? How? They did it to him too. So it wasn't just an anomaly that I was experiencing.
Right.
You know,
That's
there all of a sudden there was two of us. So the answer to the question is they're not affected by weather. You know, temperature is nothing to them. They're beyond it. They're outside of it. And you know, it's had times where they'll make us cold, you know, or they'll make us warm. The things and how they communicate is so much farther beyond the concept of what we look at communication as.
You know, one time I asked my friend asked Nantaya, well, why, if you guys are all in have this one big hive mind where you're all in mental connection all the time, why do you have to vocalize and make wood knocks and stuff like that? And she said,
Yep.
well, that's to show exactly where we are, because it's like there is no, and maybe it's what you're saying, Miss Frank Beans, about the no space. Like there's no, in quantum physics, there's no distance. It's a non-locality. There's no local place. Everything is the same place.
Yeah.
And so, since that's the case, with their mind speak with each other, they need to, if they're like hunting or they need to know where everybody is, they need to make the wood knocks or the vocalizations to get the local spatial layout of the group. It's kind of like being on a cell phone, but you know, you say, well, I can't see you in the airport. Where are you? Make a noise, and somebody says, hey, I'm over here. You know, so like the cell phone is the non locality, the no space, and so then they have to use that. I thought that was interesting.
All your conclusions are good.
Yep. And one thing I want to interject on the wood knocks. We don't believe that they're banging on trees with sticks. You know, if you look at the common sense behind it, you know, they're not walking around with a billy club or a baseball bat. And when you're out in the woods and somebody wants to say, hey, I'm right here, and they do a knock and they want to do a knock back, I mean, you have to find the right stick that's not going to shatter, that's going to make the kind of noise that you want it to make. Now, my hand is this big. An individual who's 11 feet tall, his hand is, you know, huge. And I've gotten more responses by going like that than I have with banging on trees. We quit doing the banging on trees. You know, just because we've elevated way far beyond that. Yes, we do hear the wood knocks. Yes, we do hear the whistles. Yes, we do hear the chattering off in the distance, sounding like two women talking back and forth. You hear audible, like I said earlier, on more times than I can think of. I've heard them actually speaking out loud. But their communications are so intense and so in depth, and the spectrum of how they communicate, like the people talking about, they're clacking rocks together. We believe that, well, I can pretty much demonstrate it off of audio recordings that, somehow with their mouth, they're making that sound like they're going, or making a click somehow like that. Because I have on audio while they're speaking, they're clicking and popping, kind of like how Aborigines talk. And that's one of the reasons why when we sit out in total darkness. We don't even, once in a great while we'll have a campfire, but even a campfire will mask a lot of the stuff that they do. But usually right after we go to bed, they come into the camp and it's just all this, clicking going on back and forth, so they're communicating like that. They communicate telepathically. They can tell, the best answer I can give is they do what they do when they do it. It's, it's just such a huge spectrum of communication that they use. And so whatever reason why, sometimes they want to click, they want to, make the knock sounds. They want to speak audibly. They want to speak telepathically. They want to broadcast the emotions onto you. It's far beyond our understanding of why they do it. It's just that they do it, and that's the part that that a lot of people step beyond is the big question of why. Well, it doesn't matter why. It's that they are, and that they are doing that, and working with them in that. A lot of the communications that I've had from Pork had said earlier about having a teacher. His name was Eadengon. He's deceased now, and I can tell you that whole episode would take an entire show to even try and explain what happened. But I got drawn out of my house to go up into the mountains, and the clans from every single area that we researched were there to let me know that he had passed.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was three others there with me, the other guys on my team, and they all witnessed this. We had, I don't know how many of them around us, but they were standing there, arms, like their hands crossed in front of them and their head bowed in reverence. And the level of emotion I got hit with, I started bawling. I had to get up and walk away from it. It was intense. And when you can feel the emotion of hundreds of individuals, because Eadengon, I called him Indy. Indy was the senior elder, and it was a very reverent moment.
One interesting thing about communication too is that they can give anybody any auditory, sensory, or visual experience that they want. And even when there's like a couple people together, one guy might hear a huge big bang and a crash. The other guy doesn't hear anything. And I've got an interesting story, and it's a way longer story, like Arizona, Kevin said, but it also involved lifts or whatever, but I won't get into that part. But this is an example of that. And this is the visual thing. So I'm walking along the forest path, and it's a big, long, wide path, about 8 feet, no, maybe 12 feet across. And I'm looking straight ahead, and I don't see anything until about 3/4 of the way across, a Sasquatch person materializes right out of thin air. And my young friend who didn't have the experience that I had, and literally it just wasn't his time to see a Sasquatch. That's how it works. I mean, just when you're ready, they'll show themselves. But I said, "Did you see that Sasquatch?" And he said, "You mean that little dog?" he saw a little dog do exactly the same thing as I saw, except I saw the actual Sasquatch. So they can, you know, you can, both people can be experiencing the same thing, and you may not experience it at all, or you may hear something different, or not at all, or you may see something different.
Yeah, we routinely have that. We routinely have stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Oh yeah. You know, there was one night in particular, and I'm trying to remember who it was that was with me. Oh, it was Chuck, and you know, heard the loudest crash, bang, boom sound, and the best way I can describe it was something big fell out of a tree and broke branches on the way down. And I was like, Chuck, did you hear that? And he's like, I didn't hear anything. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I got up and I was looking off in that direction. And matter of fact, that was October 31st of 2017. And that's when I had my first daytime sighting. You know, I want to say it was like 78 yards away. But he was just standing there and I was watching him and I'm like, Chuck. And I took my eye off him for a second, looked back, and he was gone. But Chuck never heard it. Chuck never saw it. And, you know, you figure something that weighed probably, this individual is right about the 8 foot tall and, you know, probably 900 pounds. And if it came down out of the tree like what I heard and broke branches all the way down, because that's the sound I heard. I mean, it caused me to jump up and, you know, but he never heard it. He never heard it. He never saw anything. You know, we're constantly, did you hear that? Hear what? Did you see that? See what? And, you know, and so we always tell, you know, whoever comes out with us, no matter what you feel, see, hear, taste, or smell, let us know. Even if your butt itches, let us know. It might mean something. But because so many times one of us will experience something and the other one won't. And or a couple of us will and a couple of us won't. And then there's the times that all of us are getting the full Monty on it. And, you know, it's just mind-boggling that, you know, you can hear stuff and see stuff like that. But people that are sitting right there with you don't. You know,
the only one
that's actually kind of similar to how they can selectively zap, you know, with the zapping that is often unpleasant. Sometimes people have pleasant ones like the love zap.
I can give you a good example of that. My son, you know, we're on a family camp out up at one of the research areas, and my son, and he's got his son with him who was, I think, a little over or just under 2 years old at the time. So he was carrying him. He had his older daughter with us, and I think one of my other grandsons was with us. And we walked out of the camp. It's dark, and we went walking around this loop. And as my son is holding his son, he keeps looking over, and my son says, "I think he can see one." And I said, "Well, he probably can. They're probably showing themselves to him." And so my grandson is looking at his dad up and down, looking at me up and down, and looking over and looking up and down. You know, like, why is Daddy and Papa not as big as this guy? You know, that's kind of how he was looking. And so this kept going on, and we got kind of moved around over by where the gift stump was. And all of a sudden, my grandson just started jolting, and my son's like, "What's going on with him?" I said, "He's getting a power zap right now. He's okay. Don't worry about it. They're making a connection with him." And he says, "They're not hurting him?" I said, "No, not by any means. They're just doing a download. They're making a connection." And then just then it stopped. My son never felt anything, and my son had said something to the effect of, you know, "Can you do something like maybe wave at him to let him know everything's okay?" And then we sat there and talked for a little bit, and then my grandson, he goes like this and waves. So we start walking back to our campsite, and all of a sudden my son gets his very first power zap, and he's like, "Whoa, dude, what's going on?" And I said, son, relax. You're getting it now. They're making the download with you. And so he hands his son off to his daughter, who was like 16 at the time. And he's just sitting there and he's just shaking, not from fear or anything, just because of the power that's going through him. And then it stops. And, you know, and my son, you know, he's a pretty tough character. And he's just like, Dad, I've never felt love like that before in my life. I want to cry. I said, then cry. I said, enjoy the experience and cry. They made that connection with you. And, you know, and so, you know, the whole conversation about ultrasound or infrasound, you know, that completely deleted infrasound out of my vocabulary with this subject, because there's no way that was a sound wave. You know, it was a power connection. You know, they got hooked up to 10 Sears diehards and just, but you know,
have you ever seen Snow White Bigfoot's videos?
Yes. Well, no, I thought you're asking if I've ever seen a white one. But
oh no, yeah, Snow White Bigfoot. Angie out in Ohio, she has one video where her granddaughter seems to be seeing and talking to one that nobody else can see. Have you seen that? It's fascinating. It's called I think it's Annabelle talking to her Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot talking to Annabelle, something like that on Snow White Bigfoot. I just tried to search for it. I couldn't find it. So if anyone could find it and let the listeners know, many of you out there listening to this, watching this, will have seen that video. But it's right down the same alley that Arizona Squatch was just talking about one person, often a child, somebody who's more sensitive than the others, or more innocent, more open, will be able to see things and hear things that others can't. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I can say that, you know, I've got 14 grandchildren, and out of the 14 grandchildren, 8 of them have had sightings. 10 of them have had, you know, the zapping and that kind of stuff. My wife's had sightings, and then, you know, this is 3 generations of people out, you know, going out experiencing this stuff when the whole family goes out. You know, the little stick figure dolls that were left for my grandson were just phenomenal. The first one that was left was out by where they had their latrine set up, and my grandson, the one who got zapped on the one trip, inadvertently stepped on it, and it broke because he didn't see it at first. And my daughter-in-law looked down and goes, "Wow!" And so she brought it over to me, and I said, "Yep, that's a gift," but he broke it. And then the next morning there was another one left there that she found, so they got 2 of them. Just incredible stuff.
I have a comment about your son being and you getting like the love zap, or getting that energy and feeling love. I want to put it in context with holy men. Like I said, it was sort of my fortune in life to meet 4 enlightened men, and one of them was a living perfect master. And this guy would, from time to time, he'd have these festivals, and he would give darshan. What darshan is where the guru sits on a chair and everybody goes around and touches his feet. And one of the things that the people who had been in that community for a long time would do was they would take their babies, and they'd take the babies through the darshan line. Now, this darshan line was interesting because it had 2 tents. One was for the people to help, who were helping, because they had to like pull people away from the guru's feet. And at the end of the day, his feet looked like hams because of so many people hitting his feet. That's why they do it like that. That's why it's not about kissing the feet. It's because there's no other way to touch thousands and thousands of people in a day. They have to, you know. Anyway, so the people who sent the babies through the darshan line, and I sent my baby at the time through the darshan line one time, and when you walk out the other end of the line, the whole baby would just be vibrating, right? This is the holy energy being given to the child, and whenever people give their darshan, is the holy energy comes to them, right? And it just like refreshes your whole spirituality. And this is what their Sasquatch were doing. They're basically giving your children darshan they're giving that divine light, divine life energy. And that's pretty amazing. That's the greatest story I've ever heard. One of the greatest stories I've ever heard. You know,
Yeah.
that's just and that they cared enough to give it to your whole family.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you the story about what happened to my 16-year-old grandson. It was him, myself, and my buddy Chuck. And we're up at another location called Hilltop, and we're sitting there and, you know, having activity. I've been getting a couple of zaps. I knew who was there by you know, the signature of the zap. And, you know, so I was talking to him, and all of a sudden my grandson starts crying. Well, at first he says, "Papa, I'm having a hard time breathing." I said, "Relax." I said, "This is what's going on. They're making a connection with you." And then he just broke down and started crying. Now he's been through a lot of stuff over the last couple of years. And what I told him, and I said, "Son, they when they tapped into you and they did the download, they know everything you've been through, and what you were feeling was their emotions of you know, of the sadness of it broadcasting on you, and that's why you started breaking down." And then he calmed down right after that, and then he just stands up, you know. And mind you, it's dark out there, you know. We may have had a quarter moon, if that, you know, but it wasn't coal mine dark, you know, because I could see him. And he walks about I don't know, 15, 20 yards away, and then he just kind of stops and, you know, does a stutter. And he turns around and he goes, "Papa, Papa, Papa," and he comes walking back. I said, "What?" And he goes, "I just saw one." I said, okay, well, tell me what you saw." He said, "Well, it was as tall as I was, but I thought it was a stump until it turned its head and looked at me. And what it was this individual was squatting down, you know, in a complete squat, and was as tall as my 16-year-old grandson, squatting down. But he was about, I don't know, 2-3 feet away from him. You know, when he turned his head and looked at him, you know, which caught him off guard. It startled him, but you know, bless his heart, he didn't get scared about it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the force people, you know, letting him know that, you know, that he doesn't need to be afraid. And you know, it was just such a, you know, such a powerful moment to be out there and be able to experience that with him.
Can I tell a story about? Let me share a story about how they know everything in our past or whatever. That they can read everything about us. I put on every year I have I call it the RE gathering, and it's actually I facilitate it, but actually the Sasquatch invite the people. You know, they're they actually invite everybody who goes there, and it's been remarkable every time. But this is really talks about how they know us intimately and our past and whatever. So there was one lady there who had never had a lot of experiences, but she was, you know, she had an open heart, and she did have some experiences. So what they did is first of all, they left a glyph by her car that was a friendship welcome glyph, an X. So I was there so I could explain that they're extending an invitation to you. And so I started talking to her a little more. We got into a little more of a conversation, and she says, I got zapped. And so I asked her to explain what it was, and she said, well, it was and really profound for her. She said it was bubbly tickles or something is what she said. They gave her this sensation of, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but it was something like that. And it was so profound because the sensation that they gave her, she said, I only experienced that once in my life before. Oh, I'm getting the energy again. And that was when my first kiss with a boy. And I've only had it once. I only experienced it once. And that was the exact sensation that she felt. And so they gave her that so that she knew, you know, without question, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty profound when they can go into the recesses of your past and pull out that kind of experience and give it back to you. I mean, she said there was no question whatsoever that was what I felt, and I only experienced it once, like she said.
Was that the
And,
woman with the physical disabilities that was on the video recently of yours?
No.
different one. Yeah.
Mary, you mean? Mary?
Yes, right.
Oh
That was
man,
amazing.
she's amazing.
She is. That's an amazing
Yeah,
video. If you want to tell the title so people listening can go find it.
You know what? I've got like a couple hundred videos. I can't even remember the
one with Mary. Yeah, I can't remember.
But you know, that just speaks to how they know, you know, like about our past or whatever. I mean, when they can pull out something she's only experienced once and they give it to her just so that there's absolutely no question. I mean, she knew for sure when she felt that, right? Like, just amazing.
I just want to thank you, and I want to say, not that I'm wrapping up the show, that's for Daniela to do, but I want to say two things. One, I found that video I was talking about, Snow White Bigfoot. And by the way, anybody who's interested in Sasquatch communication should be watching Snow White Bigfoot. That's her name on her channel. The video is called "Was Annabelle Talking to Her Bigfoot Friend Again?" It's got 433,000 views. It's really.
I've put a link of that in the chat actually before. I'm looking for the video of Mary's experience. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. I want to bring Kevin Saunders back in and see what he's
I was just going to do that too.
I know, sorry, Kevin. What are you feeling about all this? Can you relate to any? Is it making you think that your signs have been there since, and you're maybe not reading them? Do you feel like they're around you?
Actually, I do. Excuse me. Yeah, after I talked to Robin, actually, while I was talking to Robin, she mentioned something about the hoot owl sounds, and I told her that I'd heard some outside my house recently when I was thinking about them, and I guess while she was channeling with these beings that are watching over me. She said that was them outside my house, so they can actually, I guess, use portals to go from one place to the other, to to travel large distances.
Yeah, I've had them in my house over 100 miles away from my research area. So yeah.
This is a different subject, but they can shapeshift into. Well, most of my experiences have been with ravens, owls, and believe it or not, people. I've even seen them in human form, so they can shapeshift too, like the old. Well, is that an Indian?
A lot of Indian lore and tradition of shapeshifting.
Yeah. Can I ask you guys? Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you.
Have you guys experienced like one of the ways that they connect with me? Well, it's not rudimentary because it's not actually rudimentary, but with glyphs. Have you guys experienced glyphs at all?
Oh yeah.
Can I share a picture or something and give you? I mean, I've got like probably 20 or 30,000 pictures of glyphs, and like I said, like I said, they know what's going to happen to you or whatever, like 5, 6, whenever, like when you were born, before you do. Because and I've proven that with these glyphs, but I won't get into that so much. But do you want to see something?
Yeah, we can see one. Yeah,
absolutely.
I got a bunch of good ones here, but I'll try to focus on one. This is one where they actually. Well, the thing with glyphs is that it's a telepathic thing, like with me, and it sounds like a cop-out, but it really isn't. If you agree with say, okay, this is what this glyph means, they already know that you're going to come to that understanding, and you can look back years in the past and say, oh wow, and it's proven that they already knew, kind of thing. So it's a personal understanding between you and them, and it's a language and a personal connection. But here. Okay, I'll just go over some of these. I'm only going to go on one because I don't want to take up too much time. But that's a pretty cool one.
I'm muted. I didn't realize I was muted. I've just put Mary's encounter in the chat. So guys, click that.
Yeah.
Don't click it now, obviously.
I'll show you. I'll just show you the one I'm talking about. Oh, that's a pretty cool one, but that's one for my wife and I. It's got our fish glyph in there. It's got the Y, which is man Sasquatch connected, and the A is the clan leader signature. And that was left way up in the mountains in some snow. Okay, this one. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just explain the story of this. So my girlfriend, and who is my wife now at the time, we were camping in an area, and my hearing is not really all that great. But we're sitting there, and she could hear a big individual breathing heavily in the bush off to our left. You know, because they're big people. She could hear like somebody breathing in there, and she said, "That's Forshna." And she's really gifted. She just knew it was him. So anyway, later so then we went to bed in the tent, right? And like I said, she heard the individual off to our left. And so the next day we got up, and right in a tree, like 5 or 6 feet right in front of our tent, was this glyph, okay? Now, this is our tent. This individual basically drew in a picture what actually happened. So here's our tent. Here's the man Sasquatch connected, the Y, okay? Here's and my wife said, wow, they even know about tent pegs, because here's the floor of the tent. Here's the tent pegs. Here is her and I in the tent. And here is the individual, Forshna, off to the left, who was watching us. So he basically drew for us exactly what he saw unfold. So pretty cool, eh?
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, you can see what I'm talking about, right?
Hey, Pork, you should, do you have a picture of that amazing thing that you and Mary got that showed kind of a facsimile of a house?
I'll tell you what, I'll look for it while you guys carry on. You want me to do that?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that thing.
No, I can find it. I can find it.
It's unforgettable. That's an amazing thing that happened to you guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got one pulled up here, and this is my favorite one. I have it on my phone, so I'll put it up to the camera. But at my primary location, Squatch Camp, I have the same path that I walk 2 to 3 times a day. I go out to my gift stump, and then I go out to the only place I get phone service. I make calls home, check in, make sure everything's fine, and then I walk back to camp. And I walked the same path over and over. And one day this wasn't there, and the very next day it was there. But it is a perfect, let me see how I do this, a perfect K. That's 2 sticks making a K. That was left right there on the trail for me.
Oh yeah, see that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, see, it's interesting, isn't it? There's a lot going on tonight. I feel like we've only just really scratching the surface, and there's so many different things, like you said, the glyphs, the communication, seeing them in different ways and forms. I feel like we need to do another show and do things in, maybe focus on one thing individually, because there's such a lot of information here tonight. But it's, fascinating that you're all experiencing these things, and it makes me wonder what the common denominator is.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that old that fable about the blind man and the elephant, and so many people have different kind of different angles on the same thing, but Mr. Beans has given us the sort of like elephant itself, the oneness of the universe, and that's a very hard thing to get one's arms around, especially for a kind of cerebral, empirical guy like myself. But it helps to hear it, and it helps to kind of reduce the sort of fragmentation. I think there's a lot of overlap in what people are talking about here, and we can hang on to that, leading to a possible next discussion.
Definitely.
I wanted to address this thing about us being experts. I'm not an expert.
There are no
Brian
experts.
Pork is not an expert. Nobody's an expert, but I am an expert on my life. I am an expert on what has happened to me, and the connections that I've made. And if that helps people, that's good. And we need that. We need the whole mosaic of everybody's, the two Kevins and Christopher and Danielle. We need that. We need to be able to put it all together because, my part of the story is really, really important to me. But somebody out there who's had their pants scared off of them, their view is really, really important to them. There's, that's all part of the mix.
One thing that seems like people have not mentioned tonight is anything on the evil side or the demonic side or like Nephilim.
I can talk on that really good.
Not to open a whole new Pandora's box.
No.
I got some things to say about that too.
Make an observation about that. Yeah.
There are evil out there. There are bad things out there. One of the trips that I was on with my grandson, we were going to stay one extra night after the rest of the family had left. And we had the truck all packed up, minus the cots. We were going to sleep outside on the cots. And just before it got dark, I got the communication, leave now, not safe. And I was like, can you tell me that again? Leave now, not safe. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know how to explain it, but the entire atmosphere up there changed. The color of everything changed. The sound of everything changed. It just went south. Being a combat veteran, I immediately went into defensive posture, and my grandson even said, "What's going on up here, Papa? This is wrong." And we threw everything in the back of the truck and we beat feet out of there. And it wasn't until we got, I don't know, probably 6 miles down the road that everything calmed down and everything went back to normal. So yeah, there are things out there that that are on the darker side.
It's hard to know whether those are overlapping with the same thing as Sasquatch or some other sort of force.
Well, I have been told that I'm protected when I'm out there, and I've got quite a few stories of things that demonstrate that. Now, the forest people themselves, they are peaceful, they're loving, they're not evil, they're not Nephilim, they are the people. When I ask them, what do you call yourself? The people. And so we just call them the forest people. But they call themselves the people. That's what that was the communication that I had from my teacher, Indy. That they call themselves the people.
Just like we call ourselves the people.
Yep. There's, there definitely is, evil out there. I mean, all you got to do is look around the world and, evil is everywhere. Not just in the woods, evil is in the heart of man. So the things out there that would or could cause harm, I know I'm protected against. And if something is going to happen, I get fair warning. And one time I didn't take heed to it until it was almost too late. And that's a long story, but the bottom line is I'm still here.
I agree with you about them watching over us and protecting us. I've experienced that many, many times. Matter of fact, they actually rescued me out of the woods. And it involved a glyph too. But I did find that glyph that you wanted, Christopher. Do you want to say it?
Oh, you mean the house? Yeah.
Yeah. So
you've got rid of it.
Oh, hang on.
And we can let this be the last image of our show, perhaps.
Yes. This is an interesting one, though.
Well, you know what? We could go on for. Well, yeah, we could go on forever.
Except it's quarter of 2. It's quarter of 2 for Daniela. So.
What? Wait a minute. That's not the right one.
Oh.
That's not it.
Almost.
No.
You got
closer. I can feel it. I can feel it coming closer.
It's not up yet.
So
coming
well, we will get together again soon.
Hang on a minute. I'll get it.
I know. I'm just filling in time while you're finding that image.
Dwayne Ayers said, would either of the 5 men who are here sharing their experiences have any input onto what Mark Barton and Scott Carpenter had experienced with these creatures? So that should be on the table maybe for next time. That's
Yeah.
kind of important, I think, you know.
Well, I'll send you the map.
That goes along with the evil, weird things that are out there.
Exactly. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is it there now?
Oh, got it now. Here we go.
Okay.
There we go.
There.
Yeah,
it is.
they left when before, like they connected my wife and I. I mean, they told me they wanted us together. We had work to do for them, and prior to our marriage, and afterwards, they left like dozens and dozens of glyphs talking about that. And this is one of the nice ones. This is kind of like a house, you know, and you can actually see a house here, and it's
Show the bed and the blanket, those leaves with the curtain.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
right here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's amazing.
It
But,
looks. If people watch the video, I'll put the link in again, and watch the video that contains this image. It's I just put the link in, didn't I? I'll put it in again. Here it is. This is Mary's encounter experience. I watched this video. That's what really got me interested in you guys. And I did say I sent it to a few people actually. And I said I actually don't care what's going on there. I just love the fact that Mary had that experience.
Well, actually, I found that glyph. They left it for me. I took her up there after the fact to show her.
I think maybe Daniela means like she could walk again.
Oh,
She could,
the whole thing.
the whole thing. And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is a woman who cannot walk across the street without, you know, like having a hard time. She's disabled. Ari, my clan leader, actually zapped her, and it was, I could feel the energy. Like I could feel him when he was doing it. It was amazing. And she is, she was talking to them and connecting with them, and they were telling her all kinds of stuff or whatever. And he gave her strength. She was walking over logs about 2 feet high, as well as I was. She was practically running around in the woods, and that's happened a couple times. And it's just like I said, Ari, will you help her? And he does.
It's definitely about energy, isn't it? You can
yeah.
just see that when you're watching that video. I found it fascinating. I put a link in the chat. I'll put a link in the description after. Guys, we will get together again and we will break it down a little bit more. Kevin, I hope you've got something from this. I'm trying to unmute you, sorry. Oh, you must have to unmute yourself, Kevin, sorry. Hope you've got something from this and managed to, because not many people you can talk to about this experience, about what's going on, and that's why I wanted to get you guys together. At least you can all connect in one way.
Thank you, Daniela. I want to thank you for organizing this. It's very fruitful, even though frustrating that there's so much still that we don't understand. But you did a service for us today. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I just think the only way people are going to be able to get some answers, or at least feel like you're not the only one, is to talk to others that experience the same thing, much like people who just encounter Bigfoot on a flesh and blood level, if you want to call it that, or whatever. So but definitely we will get together. Kevin, like I say, I hope you got something from this and you'll come back and we'll do it all again. Maybe in a bit more of order. Yes, you can.
Can I give a little plug for, and it's not because I want to plug the show. There's actually a reason for it. If anybody wants to come on the Pork and Bean show, because we're always looking for people with experiences, and you, Christopher, you can come on, Arizona, all you guys. But if you want to contact, no, you're already annoying the hell out of me anyway. You're on there every week. You know, by the way, you know who's contacting me, sending me a bunch of messages right now? Robin Haynes McCrae.
Oh, wow. Well,
But
Robin's
anyway, if
welcome to come on.
yeah. If you want, well, she's been on the show many times. I'll send her your way. But if you want to come on our show, contact me at pork n, just the n, beans
Show.
group show pork and beans show at gmail.com. So that's PORKNBEANSSHOW at gmail.com. And yeah, because we're looking for guests all the time.
People who have connections. Oh, there you go. Look at that. So on the
There you
ball.
go. If anyone wants to get in touch, anyone experiencing the same kind of thing, and you want to,
Hey, all right.
get some discussion going or share what you're experiencing, get in touch with these guys. They're all right, actually. They're not bad guys.
I'm okay. I'm not sure
One thing
about
we
Mr.
didn't get to.
Okay,
One thing we
okay.
didn't get to today was an overview of where the Star Nation people come into this, and that's really, really important to the Sasquatch communication and what's going on. But that'll have to be saved for another show.
Let's save
But
that
that's
for
an
another
important
show.
part. To keep in your
Yeah.
mind that there's a connection there, and as much as we want to find out about the Sasquatch, you need to be able to fit that into a larger reality with the ETs coming onto Earth now.
Well, we will definitely delve into that the next time.
You know, I'm Port Cunningham, so I like to interrupt because I'm usually running my show.
I noticed you do a good job at it as well, actually.
But
Well-
you know, like really, every time we do one of these shows, like we've all had so many experiences that it just feels like I haven't even said anything. Or I'm sure Arizona Squatch and Christopher and all of you feel the same way. It's just like there's so much we could talk about. It's just kind of scratching the surface,
Definitely.
even on this specific topic. You know.
Yeah.
Well, this specific topic is the entire universe, it seems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also, you guys are meeting for the first time. There's, things to get out of the way, I guess, or you have to start somewhere, don't you? And it's not always easy to start at the beginning in this subject, because who knows where the beginning is and who knows where the end is going to be.
Exactly.
But you just seem to dive in at some point and make your way out from there. But it has been fascinating, and I want to just say thanks to everyone in the chat, everyone who's sort of commented as well. I haven't got around to all of you, but thanks for getting involved in the show. Kevin, Arizona Squatch, thank you for coming back on.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Kevin again, Saunders, thank you. Pork and Beans, of course. Go and check out their show as well. Pork and Beans channel. All that will be in the description for everyone to check out. And of course, my co-host for tonight, Christopher Noel, thank you so much.
Not to just
the angels did sing.
I don't want to just toot my horn, but if anyone is interested, I do have this book called Mind Speak that you might want to turn to. It's got.
Where do we hold it up?
Where do
Hold
we
it
get
up.
it?
Hold
Where
it
do
up.
we get it?
There you go.
It's
Mind
on
speak,
Amazon. It's on Amazon, and it's just got a lot of science in there about how telepathy is possible between humans within a quantum framework, and also 20 interviews with people who have had mind speak with Sasquatch in various forms.
It's a great book.
Keep talking about it till I get the link.
Trees in the forest have mind speak and connect with each other.
Oh.
That's a proven fact. That's a proven fact.
Well, they have the mycelium, that fungal layer that they can share nutrients with and warn each other of danger. But that might be a chemical thing, not so much a telepathy.
It's absolutely telepathy.
Get
off that horse.
Yeah.
I believe so. I felt some trees, and some of them have amazing energy, and you can tell even a difference in a tree from other trees. Yeah, I believe that. I believe what Mr. Bean said.
I've put a link in the description. Mind Speak. It looks like that. Get it. I've only just kind of started getting into it, but it's a really easy. I like the way it's written. It's easy to read, and I don't mean that in a it's simple, but it's just really to ease, and it flows really well. And I think people will find it really interesting.
I try to be accessible.
It is really accessible. It's great to read. It really
Like
is.
for handicapped accessible like that?
Yeah, mentally
No,
handicapped. Like,
what he's saying is for an intellectual. He tries to bring it down to our level so we can understand it.
It's in layman's terms, in other
well,
words.
time to go.
There's not many big words in it.
Watch out, Christopher. I'm sending you a friend request, so I warned you.
I'm going to meet you all. But guys,
I'll consider accepting it.
I'm just going to say good night because these guys are just going to talk over me. Good night and thank you.
You just have to cut us off.
Bye, everyone. I'll see you all soon. Good night.